All right. I know a couple of you contacted me with some laptop problems, so we'll look at those at the first break. So what I want to do here is just so you kind of can see the flow of this, and it'll also be a way to introduce some new topics, is I'm going to do what I'm expecting you to do. So I'm going to pick a Bible story, and I'm going to start making my project. All right, and it's going to evolve. We're going to over the semester. Um, Now, I went through and I looked at everybody's their proposals and things like that. So I didn't pick a duplicate. That way you didn't have to worry that mine was going to look so much better than yours because I'm so artistic and amazing. All right, but you will see the process. So I'm going to be going through the process in here of exactly what I want you to go through when you're working on this project for the semester. That makes sense?
Much sense.
I didn't understand that.
Makes sense.
He said makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. So I need the new Siri to process Vietnamese.
Yeah, it's gonna be up on iPhone X.
I know. I saw it. So except my wife's getting the iPhone 8. But I'm ordering the iPhone 10, but I can't even pre-order it until like the middle of October. And then it doesn't ship until the beginning of November.
Well, it's maybe frustrated from you complaining to some guy and then, the Apple beginner.
No. All right. So let's kind of start off with, let me introduce the story that I want to bring to life with Unity here. All right, so what I'm going to do, and this is, so I looked at everybody else's project and what they were working on. So we've all heard the Jesus story where born in a manger, the mom was a virgin, all that stuff. So we're going to make that into our story. So really where I'm taking the storyline from is Luke 1. So this is in the New Testament, and it's in verse 26 is kind of where it starts. So this is the birth of Jesus. So I'm just going to kind of read this part, and then we'll talk about what this first scene might look like. All right, so in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, so Elizabeth's somebody else, God sent the angel Gabriel. Okay, we got an angel coming down to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greetings, you who are highly favored, the Lord is with you." Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end." "How will this be?" Mary asked the angel, "since I am a virgin?" The angel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age. And she who said to be unable to conceive in her 6th month, for no word from God will ever fail. I am the Lord's servant." Mary answered, "May your word to me be fulfilled." Then the angel left her. Okay, so first scene. We're going to have this conversation between Mary, this woman who's a virgin, can't be pregnant, with this angel guy, Gabriel. All right? So we need to create this setting. Now, how do you think this, where do you imagine this happened? So this is in Nazareth, back in this is probably in BC 30 or something like that? Somewhere in that ballpark. So a long time ago. What do you imagine a place like that look like? Kind of a villagey? Sand and, probably some like stone, mud brick type of houses, things like that. Okay, so we want to kind of create a village like situation. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to open up Unity here.
Bless you.
Living out question.
Okay.
Why is it so like this has nothing to do with like the project, but like you were saying like 30 BC. I was just always wondering like did they have like a specific like, letters for when Jesus was alive? Because I know like AD is after death and BC is before Christ.
I don't think that's what they stand for.
AD
What
is
are they-
Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. So AD is technically supposed to be from his birth onward.
Which-
doesn't exactly line up that way,
But BC stands for something else.
before Christ.
Does it actually stand for that?
Yeah. Now they
They
have
changed it to
BCE before Common Era, but like. that's-
Okay,
I
okay.
thought BCE and BC are two different like two different eras.
No, they're the same thing.
All right, so we're going to call this one Birth of Jesus Bible VR. This is going to be a 3D project, and I'm storing it in my Dropbox here, but let me move it into a different folder and put it in this one. There's a new version of the Unity editor. Oh, now it says it's up to date.
I did the exact same thing.
Okay, so we need to find village pieces. All right, so this is happening in the Middle East. All right, so probably not going to have Egyptian-y stuff. So we need to find kind of, village, sand, probably there is grass, so something like that, but make it feel kind of old, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this thing called the asset store. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a search for stuff. We can find stuff online as well, but the asset store allows us to find, oh, look at that, Village Interiors Kit. So we'll see. The asset store has a whole bunch of stuff that's readily available to us for us to bring things into our projects. Okay? Some of them are free, some of them cost something. I would encourage you to look for free stuff. But if there isn't something free and there's something that you think would really benefit your project, we can look into helping you out with that if you aren't able to take care of it on your own. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say village for no good reason. And we're going to start with free only. Let's see what we get with this. Okay, we got Viking Village. We got Sunny Village. Modular Village. Old Soviet Shop. Let's see.
That one seems like a fit really well.
Mega Fantasy Props. Let's see what this guy has in it. Oh, look. Huh? So this is, yeah, it's not bad, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna roll with that.
Yep.
All right. So, Mega Fantasy Pack, 3D models, environments, fantasy, free. It actually looks pretty legit. Now, one thing you do want to consider when you're designing this stuff is, and we'll do this. I might even do it today, depending how far we get. But certainly next time, I'm going to show you the process of bringing it into VR. But initially, most of you are working on this not in VR. I know a couple of you have worked with VR stuff, so you might start off by working in VR. I'm promising you it's not a significant difference, but I'll kind of show you that process, and we'll bring it into VR sooner rather than later. But the point I'm getting at here is, as we start bringing our world to life, we want to start thinking about the main character, our player, let's say, is going to end up being us, our perspective. So when you're designing stuff, imagine that you're moving through that world with your eyes. You're looking around and you're seeing stuff. So you're not going to have the player, usually when you create a game, you're going to have this player on the screen and you use the keyboard or something and you see that player moving around. When we bring this into VR, we move into that player. And now we're driving through the world. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and download this pack. Having a very difficult time deciding which drink to drink first.
Can.
Because it is the oldest.
Why do you have
Coffee's gonna get cold.
Huh?
8 o'clock
Why
this
do you have
morning.
4 drinks?
Why not?
It's 4 hours.
It's 4 hours.
No,
You
save one for each hour.
no 4 for the first hour.
The coffee's gonna get cold first, so I drink coffee.
That can's been here since like 8 o'clock this morning, though, hasn't it?
No, I brought it in with me.
So it's not.
It is the same can.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been nursing it.
Yeah.
He's
So-
preparing it to be. Well, yeah.
It's like a fine wine. It's a
Uh-huh.
Diet Mountain Dew. It ages the same as like oak barrel spirits. All right. So once you download something, it asks you if you want to import it. I'm going to go ahead and say import. Yeah, in actuality, this one looks like it could be pretty good. Now, one thing you do see on the Unity Asset Store is several things do cost money on there, but some of them might be very good. It might be worth it if it really fits the thing you're trying to do. Because, for instance, there are people that are involved in the Unity community who are not programmers, but instead they're 3D designers or something like that. So they might spend a lot of time putting together high-quality artwork or animations, that kind of stuff, and then make it available to you, and they just want to be paid for their time. So if you do find something that you think is a perfect fit for your project and you don't, and there isn't a free alternative that is anywhere near the quality, let me know and we can look at helping you with that. Okay, so after all that's said and done, I get a folder down here called Mega Fantasy Props Pack, and if I double click on that, I have a bunch of stuff. And one of the things they give us, this is pretty common for an asset pack, is they give you some sample scenes, kind of example uses of the things that they put in there. So let's see, what does this guy say? This is House on Night, Unity. Well, let's look at what that guy looks like. Go ahead and hit. You see, it's very dark, so this is like inside the house. Is what this guy looks like. Let's switch to a different one. Let's look at the courtyard. This might be something along those lines, right? Maybe something along these lines? Okay, so let's go in and we're going to create our own scene though. So we have our first scene here. So I'm going to create a scene and we're going to call this guy scene 1. Go ahead and double click on that. We got this blank scene. Now for starters, what I want to do is I want to get my guy kind of moving around in there so I can see something happening. We've seen some of that already. We did like the rollerball thing. So we want to bring something in here. But now what we want to do is we're going to need to give ourselves some tools for pulling some of this off. So I'm going to go into the asset store. And I think all of you will want to do something like this for your project and kind of prepare it for VR. I'm going to do a search here for SteamVR. And we have this plugin here called SteamVR plugin. And I'm going to download this. Hmm?
How does yours download so fast?
Because
I'm
it's
still
not on
importing the
Falcon.
first thing.
Or is it?
My what?
What network are you on?
FalconNet?
Weird. Thank you.
In the aftermarket, Wi-Fi.
All right, so now one thing that'll pop up is after you do a SteamVR, it'll give you all these like warning stuff, recommended stuff. Just hit accept all, and then it'll say you made the right choice. Okay. So now notice we have two folders here. We have Mega Fantasy, blah blah blah. That's all these town assets and stuff like that. We have these things called prefabs, and we'll talk about prefabs today, but we have walls and chairs and columns, complex prefab. So yeah, here's like things of wood and barrels and things like that. So all sorts of stuff to pick from in here. We have house prefabs. Oh yeah, I mean, we could just drag a house in there. I mean, there, you got a house. You know, so lots of stuff you can do with that. All right, so I'm gonna delete this right now. All right, so now what we're going to do is the very first thing I typically do in VR is I'm going to delete the main camera and I'm going to delete the directional light. We'll probably end up putting the light back in, but start with a blank slate. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to SteamVR here. We're going to go to, what's it, the interaction system. And then core, prefabs. Okay. So this is in SteamVR, interaction system, core, and then something called prefabs. And we have this thing called a player. So we're going to bring this player into the world. All right. Now, among all other things, we expand on this player thing here. We have SteamVR objects. We have a body collider. It notices our two different hands. We have the VR camera. It basically comes with everything we need to put this into VR. Now, if I hit play right now, it's going to look for virtual reality. I'm going to go ahead and hit accept on this. So it's telling me, hey, you tried to start this and you don't have a VR helmet plugged in, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to give you the movement with the WASD keys or the arrow keys, so you can move the camera around and things like that. You can use the right mouse button to rotate the camera, left mouse to do standard interactions. So effectively, this is faking VR for us, okay? So now let's give ourselves something to travel around on so we get some perspective. So we have our player sitting in there, and we didn't have to do anything. It came with all this fancy stuff, right? Okay, all this fancy stuff, and it's just all part of SteamVR. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a primitive in here. So we're going to create a 3D object. Let's create a plane. All right, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to stretch this plane out. All right, so there's my plane, and click on the inspector once I've selected my plane, and its position is, you know, wherever. So if I put it at, looked like it was -59 is where I kind of had it, 1.5, and then we'll say 85. All right, so close enough. And then we have some scale on that, guys. So we're going to say it's a 9 by 1 by 7.5. There is some performance benefit to minimizing the number of decimal places you go to on your scale. We're probably not going to notice an issue with it, but there are some benefits there. Okay, now the plane is currently at actually, I'm going to drop its position to y is 0. That way it's at the kind of the center point from a height perspective. So now our player is currently way up in the sky. So we're going to put our player at 0 as well. Now our player is kind of inside of the plane. So let's put the player maybe at like, yeah, 5 might work. All right. And then we're going to, I'm going to relocate here. I'm going to click on Y to give us a top-down view. I'm going to kind of move our player so he's right in the middle of our village in progress type thing. Okay? So this is kind of a skill set we get if you click on the Y-axis. That is giving you a top-down view that allows us to kind of get some stuff positioned relative to each other. This is kind of something you'll get better at over time. Okay, now I'm going to click on X. X and Z give you side views from different positions. So there's my X view. I'm going to double click on player so it'll zoom in on the player. So now there's my player above the kind of the horizon. Now if I drop this guy down, you'll see right around there, he goes under the, so if I put him at maybe 0.5, that should sit my player kind of on the ground. Player has a scale of 1 on height, so I'm putting half of him above. So that should put the whole thing above. Go ahead and hit play here. And we have a nice, nice dark area, but you notice now when I'm moving, I am moving closer to something. Now we have some perspective, right? I'm walking off the end of my plane here in a second, but we now are moving in fake VR. We'll plug a helmet in at some point, but okay. So now let's give this guy some, let's give ourselves some perspective on things. So I'm going to go back to our assets. Let's go into our Mega Fantasy. Let's click on Material. And what do we got here? Do we have like a... There's wood material, trunks, shingles, stone walls. Looking for kind of a dirt material. Well, this says dirt. Yeah, but I still would have expected it to show. Oh, did it put it on there? Let me see. Yeah, it does have that. All right, so now let's go ahead and we're going to put a directional light in here. The reality is that the directional light is not actually needed in VR from your guys' perspective to light the whole scene. You do need, if you want to light individual things or have shadows, that kind of stuff, you do need it. But just so our thing looks right from the get-go, we'll put a directional light here. And it's currently inside the plane. Let's just get it in our scene. And we'll just put this light up here kind of out of the way above the ground. Go back in here. Okay, that does not really look like dirt to me. All right, so let's try something else here. About cobblestone. Oh, I have to stop it in order to drag it up there. That look any better? Yeah, we could say that's not bad, right? All right, so we're just going to call that ground. All right, so this is kind of the ground where our stuff lives. So that's the ground. Okay, now we want to go ahead and let's start placing some village stuff in here. So we have these things called prefabs, and prefabs are like pre-built things. All right. Now, whenever you download assets, typically these guys come with prefabs. All right, so I went in here. We got some prefab stuff. I think we saw a house that we kind of liked, so I'm going to click on houses. We have 3 different kinds of houses, so let's kind of throw one out here. Oh, thank you. All right, so there's one house. So we'll set that guy right on the ground. Well, I'll put another house out here. Give us a little kind of a village feel. Put another kind of house here. Go from above. Okay. I'll hit play on this. Wonder why that keeps popping up. It must just be because of the it sees we're trying to do VR stuff and doesn't like it. Ooh, am I gonna be able to? Okay, there we go. Oh, so, okay. So we have some house stuff. Now our lighting is a little weird right now, so let's actually just give ourselves some more light because that directional light we can see it's kind of showing on some walls but not all walls and that kind of stuff. So let's check out our light here. Let's go from the side. Okay. So right now, do you see, so we have this directional light, but do you see how it's just going directly to the right? We kind of want this guy to point towards the ground, kind of pretend to be the sun. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little button up here, which is the rotation. And that will allow me to drag this guy down, kind of like it's the sun pointing down on the scene. Okay, I'm probably, let me back up here. I'm going to throw this guy higher up. Let's see if I can get a better sun perspective. Otherwise, we might need to put a couple of lights in here to make it feel like everything's lit up. Okay, it's actually positioned okay there. Let's walk through and just see what that looks like. Oh yeah, we definitely want to get some more angles in here. Well, there's our light. It's going to be really weird when we have a whole bunch of lights up there. So we probably want to kind of put them on top of each other and then just point them in different directions. So I'm going to go ahead and create another light. Actually, I think we could do area light. What did you want to suggest? Oh, so there's like a nighttime? Is that what you're trying to simulate?
You're putting multiple lights in. It's gonna show. So I was thinking probably it has a mesh.
I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. So you still have the light, but we can maybe we can turn up the intensity, but we might be able to actually we might be able to increase the multiplier here. Get rid of this area light. Don't like that guy.
And how did we
Ooh.
move with like the angle in like the screen? Like we were trying to figure out that one thing last time.
Move with the angle in the screen.
Like, you know how I was talking about how like the top part where it has the Z and the X or whatever,
Oh,
and then we figured out like
I think you just click on the middle thing.
no, that was something else. That was like to change the view.
Yeah, because your perspective was weird, right?
Yeah, and then he like fixed like he
Yeah.
figured it out on his, but now I can't figure it out again.
I know in Blender that sort of thing is done by just pressing 5 on the number pad. I don't know what it is in Unity.
All right, so let me.
You know?
This thing on hers is the one that has the 5 points on it.
Well, no, right now it's the 4, but like we figured out how like to change the view, and I was just wondering how to do that again. Oh, what would you do to do that?
I'm right clicking and dragging.
Yeah,
But if you just click, I mean, if you get to the point where you just have a Y, that'll give you the top-down view.
it's perspective versus isometric.
All right, so let me give a side view here. Very surprised that I'm not able to get better lighting. So I think we need another light kind of over there. Let's put another directional light in there. Let's rotate this some. Now let's position it higher. Rotate it more down. Let's see what that looks like. I wish we could just say, do this forever.
What are the red marks on the ground? That look like this.
Oh, it's because it's your, like the VR controls, the clicking. I think it's showing where you would actually be if you were clicking on something.
Okay.
So it's actually called a raycast. It shows you if you're pointing at something, what you'd be pointing at. All right, so let's say this is good enough for now for lights. I think that let's see if we see 2 suns up in the sky. Okay, so this is what, Tatooine from Star Wars? All right, so
You might just be looking behind your shoulder and seeing the same light twice.
what do you think? Here's one light. That's the other light. I think there is two. So now we're facing away. It's pretty high up. All right, so that's the first one above there. You might be right. It might just have one light. Okay. So now we have to decide in this scene, who are we playing? Are we maybe Mary? Huh? Oh, you want to be... Here's why it would be cooler to be Mary. Because then we can... Actually, it might come down to which is going to be easier to find. A angel asset or a woman asset. So I'd rather, because, you know, angels are going to look cool, right? But that's why we're going to find an angel asset. Like I think it would be cooler to be from Mary's perspective and see an angel.
And also, you know,
having this conversation with you, right? All right, so let's see what we can find. A Concordia appropriate woman asset. That might be a tall order. Okay, so let's do angel. Let's see what we get with that. We might be dealing with a very similar thing here. A Concordia appropriate angel asset. Angels and demons free. Oh, these are sounds. It's music. What about an angel statue? Is that going to look real enough to like pass? Not really. All right, so let's go back here to uncheck free only. All right, and then let's choose. I'm going to add some other stuff here. Let's do 3D. So this guy says Angel Pack. We definitely need a guy. I'm pretty sure that Unity does like preview these to make, so it's going to be pretty funny to get something very questionable on the recording, but I suppose that'll be entertaining. So now maybe we go a different route. Instead of thinking about, yeah, let me go this route. Let's do, because there's some guys, there's a asset pack that we have in here. So let's do this. Let's go to filter. Character. Let's do free. Let's see if I have a. Let's see if it shows the things that I've purchased. So I have an RTS package that has animations and stuff. You know, it's would be a reasonable thing for us to look at. Once I see like the what the pack looks like, I'll see what the main guy is. TS units. Guess he can be a skeletal angel. Probably not. I think Gabriel looks like a. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Paladin. Do a search for Paladin.
Why are you supposed to angel?
Here's a Paladin.
More paladin.
Gabriel, the dwarf Paladin.
A little bit on the pricey side, but you know.
Yeah.
Gabriel's a half-orc cleric.
Let's go back to the RTS stuff because I think that's they have animations, so I can show you animation stuff, and I just would have thought it would be on the. On the first page. And since I already have bought these, I can send them to any of you who want to use these guys. Yeah, it's these mini Legion ones. Are any of these guys going to pass for...
That one guy looks like he has wings on his helmet.
This dude?
Yeah.
That's Gabriel? I should already have this purchased. Oh, that's why it's not showing up. It wants me to log out, log back in. So now if I go to, I think it's going to say I already have this one. Oh, maybe I don't have the, I don't have the human one. I have rock golems, I have sentinels, and I have undead. Let's see if any of the other ones will look reasonable. Any of these guys gonna fly for Gabriel?
Wait, what are the flying ones?
Well, that might be kind of cool.
Maybe the owl.
Yeah, this could be Gabriel, like a flying owl.
Those are things.
All right, so keep that one in mind. So that might be our Gabriel. Or I think we can skip the undead pack. So let's look at the rock golems and see if there's a rock golem that's probably not Gabriel. Oh no, that's the free one. There's a pack.
What about the angel statue pack?
Yeah, we looked at it. It wasn't all that. Didn't look all that great. Falconnet, the wireless network appears to have been compromised and will be disabled for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody get that?
Yep.
Even on PCs?
Okay, classes are on.
Network just kicked me off.
No, we're good.
Which one you downloaded virus?
I mean, I don't know if
Is
Unity passes the virus.
Me?
Okay, so let's try that again. Nothing is running. I'm connected to my my phone now.
I'm back on the internet.
Oh, you're back on?
But I don't think I ever lost it.
Besides, we know your computer and your phone don't get along.
But it connected.
I have mine.
It was the Windows side that wouldn't connect.
I have an idea because like on the store they free for the intro statue. Why don't we do the statue that the Mary walked by the statue and statue talk to Mary? That miracle that the real guy just sitting there and talk to Mary.
Oh, this has to be Gabriel right here.
Oh no.
Wait, are you sure it can't be the dragon?
So which is better, the flying owl or this guy for Gabriel?
Oh, probably the owl.
The owl? All right, let's just roll with it. So we're going to get the owl for Gabriel. So this Mini Legion Sentinel hand-painted, this is a pack, an asset pack that I've previously purchased. So if any of these characters would be helpful for your project, let me know and I can get you all these for free. So I'll go ahead and download this guy. And we'll mess around with some animation stuff because we haven't done any animations in here, right?
Correct.
We've just done the ball rolling around, colliding, that kind of stuff. So just kind of the basics of Unity. All right, so click on import, and I'm going to get another folder in my assets folder that has all of these different dudes in it. And we're going to grab one of the owls. I'm a little bit disappointed. I think that skeleton guy with the giant spike coming out of his mouth would have worked. We gotta work him in somewhere.
He can be Joseph.
I guess that's true. All right, so here's this RTS Mini Legion. I'm going to go to prefabs. So the prefabs are where all of our dudes live. So these are pre-made characters that they've already put together. So do we want a blue, green, red, or yellow owl?
Well, obviously yellow is the color we'll use.
So yellow? And we're going to go ahead and let's position him kind of in the center of town here.
We could put him in a building.
Well, we can, but let's just get him in there so we can go walk up and look at him. Okay, so he's kind of there on the kind of the courtyard. All right. Oh, he's attacking. All right, so I think he's just going through all of his different animations. We'll mess with the animations here in a few minutes. Oh, do you think that's kind of the one where he's talking to you? He's going to be like turning his head and stuff like that? Not that one, probably. Now the owl's kind of spazzing out. Oh, yeah, not that one either. All right, so do we want this animation where the owl is just kind of sitting there idle? This is the flying animation, so not that one. Definitely not this one.
No, you should definitely dive bomb Mary.
Let me do this.
That's something we like.
Go to my scene. Click on my owl. The owl has something called an animator associated with it. Here's the battle owl thing. So we have an attack, a second attack, a die, a fly, a get hit. So I think it's idle or victory that we really want to see. All right, so what I'm going to do, so in this animations folder, here's our battle owl. All of these guys are individual animations. And what they've given us is they've given us this battle owl animator. I'm going to double click on this so you can see it. All right, and so this guy has this big state machine that basically takes you through all the different animations. All right, well, we don't want all those, and we certainly don't want Gabriel to be attacking and doing all sorts of stuff. So we either want him to just be idle or just do victory. So we're going to experiment with those, but rather than work with this full animator they gave us, we're going to create our own and then just use the animations they gave us. Okay, so they've already created, so it's under the RTS Mini Legion animations, Battle Owl, we have all of these individual animations. So all these little gray boxes here are individual animations that we have this controller thing. So I'm going to go back to assets and I'm going to right click here and I'm going to create a folder and we're going to call this guy animations or animation. I'll double click on that. I'm going to right click, and what I want to do is I want to create an animation controller. I'm going to create something like this. And we're going to call this guy Gabriel controller. Okay? So it's this guy that is in charge of who's going to be in charge of Gabriel. And I'll show you how to connect him here in a minute. So now I'm going to go back into the RTS Mini Legion, go into animations, go into Battle Owl, and I'm going to drag two different ones in here. I'm going to drag idle into here, and then I'm also going to drag the, what's this one say? That's the mesh. I'm going to drag victory in there. So we have two. So we have idle, we have victory. Pretty sure the other ones are going to be okay for, we don't need them for right now. Do we want him, when he's done talking, does he die or does he just fly off? What does he do?
I mean, I don't think we want to die.
Well, but I mean, maybe that's how he goes away, you know?
Well, I mean, if
Like
it's
he like kind of
Like
possessed.
wrap his wings around himself and then just shrink it
You can
trying to
turn
go
around.
before.
Do the attack thing and like shrink into nothing and disappear.
Well,
Yeah,
I was
that'd be-
thinking dive bomb into Mary and then poop away.
Oh, shit.
All right. So we'll give ourselves the flying animation just so we have it. Okay, so I think we can work with those, right? I don't think we're going to be, Gabriel doesn't have to get hit. Gabriel doesn't have to, I don't know, actually, maybe when Mary starts like saying something back to Gabriel, because during that conversation with Gabriel, she like challenges him. Maybe Gabriel can like act like he gets hit, like that's like he's taken aback. Is that that's a thing? All right, so we'll put that in there. So we're actually going to end up having almost all of our animations anyways, but we're not going to set up the state machine the full way. So I'll explain how the state machine works. But definitely not going to have Gabriel attack. So Gabriel's going to be able to fly away. Gabriel's going to be able to get hit, be idle, or victory. All right, so that's what we've done inside of our Gabriel controller. So right now our Gabriel controller has 4 animations in it, but actually only one of them is reachable. So the default animation when we enter this controller is just the idle animation. Okay? So all a controller is a fancy way of saying the dude who keeps track of which animation is playing right now. All right, that's it. So we have ways of changing which animation is playing, and I'll show you that. But right now, let's kind of decide whether idle or victory is the one we kind of want by default. So every single game object that has an animator on it must have an animator controller. So if I go back here and I click on my yellow battle owl, this guy, and actually let's call him Gabriel. There's Gabriel. Notice that he has an animator associated with him. So he came with an animator component. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the controller. So instead of the default battle owl controller, we're going to go ahead and we're going to drag our controller we made, which is the Gabriel controller, in there. Which even though we have all these animations linked, only one of them is happening. So when this controller first comes to life, on entry, he's going to play the idle animation, and that's it. Okay? So I'll go ahead and run this. All right, so that's idle animation. All right, so we have to consider. Let's rotate a little bit. Okay, so if I'm Mary, is this my view of Gabriel, or hold on a second? I want to grab something here. So while the scene is still running, I'm going to go to my player. And because the player actually has not moved. If I zoom in here, we see the player is still out over here. So I'm actually going to, when we do that, the walk through it without the VR stuff, the player is not actually moving. It's just giving us an alternative way of moving through the world until we have the VR stuff set up. So I'm going to put my guy there like that. And then I'm going to turn him around because he's facing away from. Well, let's see if we're facing Gabriel directly now. Okay. And we'll move him back just a little bit, lessen Gabriel's face. All right, so this is option for Gabriel 1. Option for Gabriel 2, I'm going to right click on the victory one here, and we're going to set as the default one. So that just switches entry to be victory instead of idle. And let's see how this one looks. So is this what Gabriel does when he's talking to you? Or is that too pompous?
I would do that when he's talking, but not.
Okay, so normally he's sitting there flying, but when he actually is vocalizing,
Yeah.
then have him do this. That's kind of giving a new motion.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I have a question, but can we put like some sort of light source on him to create a kind of glow?
Like a halo effect. We can. Let's focus on the animation stuff first, but yeah, then we can. Let's get the basics, and then we can throw some dynamic stuff in. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to go back into my animator here. And I got to my animator by just double-clicking on the animator file. That opens up this. So we're going to go ahead, and we're going to have idle be the default layer then. So we come in, and that's idle. Now, I'm going to have some other transitions. I can go from idle to victory. But so I'm going to go ahead and create that transition. So I'll right click here. I'm going to say make transition. And then I'll drag down to victory. Okay. So now I'm going to click on that transition, and I can put conditions on that transition. What must be true in order for me to get to the victory? And what we decided we're going to have, that's when he's talking. Right? So I'm going to come over here, and we have, on the left side of our controller, we have a list of parameters. I'm going to create a new one. So this little plus sign up here, click on that. I'm going to create something called a trigger. Okay? Triggers are kind of like a button. So I want to have a button that kind of says talking. And when he's talking, he transitions to the talking animation, which is going to be our victory animation. So we're going to have this trigger, and this guy's going to be called talking. Okay, so now I've created that variable. I can go back over here and click on this transition, and then I can add a condition for this transition. In order for this transition to occur, the talking trigger must have fired. All right, that's how I get to that guy. Make sense? All right, so let's just leave it like that for right now. Go back to our scene, go to my assets. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder for my scripts. And I probably mentioned last time, the naming convention they typically recommend is _ scripts. That way it shows up first in your list. So you kind of know where all your programming stuff is. It's always going to be at the top or in the far left if you're in this view. All right, so now inside of here, let's create a script that controls Gabriel. Okay. So we're going to create a C# script. And we'll just call it Gabriel. I'll go ahead and double click on this guy. It'll open it in Visual Studio. Okay, so now, before we forget, let's go and attach this script to Gabriel. So I'll go back into Unity. I'll click on Gabriel here. I can either add a component or I can drag the script over there. So I'll go ahead and drag it over there. So now so Gabriel now runs this script when he comes into existence, and he's already in my scene. Okay, so there's the Gabriel script. Now, notice that this is Gabriel here, and Gabriel has several components. He has a transform, and most important to us right now, he has something called an animator. So if I want to programmatically change which animation Gabriel is currently playing, I need to grab his animator and give some instructions to his animator. Okay, so I'm going to give myself access to that guy first. So we'll come back over to Visual Studio. Now I know that when this is running, since I only intend to attach this script to Gabriel, I know that the this, when I'm in here, is associated with Gabriel. Okay? So I'm going to create a variable up top here. There'll be a private variable. It's going to be an animator. We'll just call it anim. And inside of start, we're going to go ahead and give that guy a value. So we're going to say this dot anim is equal to this dot get component. What kind of component? We want the animator component. So that will get us the animator associated with this particular game object that the script is attached to, which happens to be Gabriel. Okay? Now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to update our update method to be fixed update. Now remind me, what does fixed update do relative to regular update? Somebody, not Tim, probably not Joseph, and not Van. You can do you know the you could answer. Okay, so why would I use fixed update instead of update? When's the right time to use each of those? Because we have two competitors. I'll write the other method here. So we have void update. What makes us use this one over this one?
If your friends go down, updates not getting called as often.
Or better performance, it'll get called too often. Because both ways, right? So fixed update says this guy is going to get called the same amount of time regardless of what kind of machine you're on. This guy says I'm going to get called once per frame. So the how often I get called is going to be very related to how good of a machine you're on. Make sense? So if we want our so fixed update is going to be the best common denominator for doing user input and that kind of stuff. So we're going to do fixed update here. And just for the sake of testing this real quick before we take a break, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read in from a key press. So we'll have it be the we'll do the space bar. So I want to find out if a key was pressed. I want to find out if the space bar was pressed on this particular cycle, this last 60 frame byte. And if it was pressed, then I want to tell my animator to set that trigger. So Gabriel starts talking, just to kind of show how we can transition between those guys, right? So we'll go ahead and say if input.get key down, and the key we're looking for is key code dot space. All right, so if the space key is pressed down, we want to do something. What do we want to do? We want to tell our animator to play a different animation. So we're going to say this dot anim dot set trigger. And the trigger we tell it to set is going to have a name. And we called that trigger, what, talking? Click on my animator here. The name of my trigger is called talking. And we take this transition right here whenever the talking trigger is set. So there's talking. So 60 times every second, I'm going to ask the question, did you just press the space bar? If so, set the talking trigger. Make sense? Let's go back into our game here. We should be looking at an idle trigger by default. I'll go ahead and hit the space bar. And he switched to his victory. Make sense? Okay, now if I want to toggle back and forth, I would need to make another Actually, can I do... Let me see something here. No, I have to go back the other way. So we're going to set another trigger. So I'm going to add another one, another trigger. We're going to call this one stop talking. Then I'm going to create a transition from victory back to idle. I'll click on that transition. I'll add a condition here that says stop talking. So now if we set the trigger for stop talking, he'll go back to the idle thing. Okay? So that's in our state machine for our animations. Now I'll come back in here. I'm going to create a private variable. So by default, he's not talking. If we press the space bar, then if this dot, for currently talking, then this dot anim dot set trigger to stop talking. Else, set it to talking. And then we need to toggle our Boolean. So this is going to decide which trigger to get called. This will flip our Boolean upon that space. So now we can use the space bar to toggle between whether Gabriel is talking or Gabriel is not talking. Make sense? And we're doing all that with triggers. All right, so he's currently not talking. Now he's talking. Now he's not talking again. He should be not talking again. You think you're better than me? Oh, there he goes.
He has to finish the animation.
Oh, thank you. We could actually fix that.
Right.
Yeah, so he did toggle, but he finished the initial animation to the end. So we need to go back into our animator here. I think it's on the actual... I think we need to do in the actual animations themselves. So this is that animation.
On the transition,
Oh, the transition can cut it off.
you can, there's the slider things. So you can slide the victory one over to.
Yeah, there's a way to do it. Is it fixed duration? This might do it. All right, so let's try interrupting it to go to the next state. And we'll do the same thing here. And let's see if that gives us the behavior we want. So now we're saying that this animation is allowed to be interrupted in order to transition to the next state and vice versa. I think this should give us the behavior we want. Okay. Nope. Well, actually, I might have missed it the first time. I definitely did not miss it that time. All right, so go back to the animator, transition. I think we could just turn off has exit time. Let me turn off those interrupt sources. I think we say turn off has exit time. It'll allow you to immediately transition out of it. That looks like it does it. Okay. So we're toggling between talking Gabriel and not talking Gabriel now. All right. So let's take a go 10-minute break. A couple of you were having problems with your laptop. Go ahead and bring it up. I'll take a look at it, and then we will reconvene in 10.